Thank you so much, Mr. Oza, for joining us. Thank you so much once again. So before we begin, let me just welcome our audience as well, and then probably I'll hand it over to you. A warm evening to all our future leaders, ladies and gentlemen, respected faculty members, guest students, and our esteemed students as well. So a warm welcome to the enlightening episode of GIBS IRE Talk series. I'm Professor Sandeep Ansali, and it's my pleasure to host today's IRE Talk on a topic that resonates with everyone who wants to be the master in the field of marketing and gain the knowledge of your audience and form a strong connection. So let's dwell into today's topic, that is navigating the marketing landscape. And before we get into the topic, let me introduce you to GIBS. GIBS Business School is based in Bangalore, an institution of excellence. GIBS is also known for its AICT approved PGDM and BBA program, for its exceptional faculty and strong emphasis on practical learning. Our commitment at GIBS is to nurture leaders who are not only successful in their professional endeavors, but also an influential community members. So to talk a little more about the talks, the IRE talks, our commitment at GIBS extends beyond education to nurturing innovation, research, and entrepreneurship. Through our IRE talks, we aim to ignite minds and inspire actions by connecting you with the visionaries and leaders who have made the significant strides in the field of in the respective fields. So currently, we are focusing on navigating the marketing landscapes, right? So let me introduce you to. I must say, for all those people who doesn't know who Mr. Aditya Oza is, I think if you just put the name, I think you will not require any kind of introduction. But on a formal note, please allow me to introduce Mr. Aditya to our esteemed audience. And it gives me an immense pleasure to introduce you, sir. So, Mr. Aditya is a co-founder and CMO of EMotorad, an electric vehicle company that strives to bring futuristic e-bikes at an affordable prices for all the adventure seekers, for daily commuters, as well as for the casual riders. You must have seen the celebrities on these bikes. For all the participants who have not noticed these bikes, I'm sure from today onwards you would notice these bikes. It is EMotorad, okay? And from these bikes has been rode by most of the corporates or celebrities, I would say, right from Shantanu Mukherjee to Sunil Shetty as well, who loves EMotorad. And for your surprise, Mr. Mahendra Singh Dhoni has also joined EV startup EMotorad as an equity investor as well as the brand ambassador. So Mr. Dhoni is the brand ambassador for Motorad. And speaking about Mr. Oja, he has a decade worth of marketing experiences. He is a multipreneur with a postgraduate in infrastructure, finance, and management. Prior to co-founding EMotorad, Mr. Aditya held various leadership positions in Dubai, Abu Dhabi, India, Spain, and Canada, where he had worked with more than 500 plus startups and Fortune 500 companies in strategic and executive roles. He is also passionate about helping his team with the other founders and individuals achieve their goals through innovative strategies and cutting edge technologies. He loves to talk about organization structure, leadership hiring, and as well as the entire ecosystems. So thank you so much, Mr. Aditya, once again for joining it. If I go on, I can go on till night about your profile, but I'm sorry, I've just shortened your profile. Apologies for that. Right. So
No,
thank
I
you so
think
much
thank you
for.
so much for such a kind introduction, Sandeep. Just for all the audiences, very common set of people just trying to build something out of India for the world. And yeah, just putting in all the hard work into it. But as average as common people as you'll get to see around the street have got together and trying to build something.
Wow, that's really very humble nature of yours that you have put it so in a simple words. But before we begin, I would love to know about your journey, Mr. Aditya. How did all this started? How did we start with our e-motorad? You've been in various countries, so why e-motorad again?
Perfect. So, Sandeep, very interesting. And my story has so much to do with the right set of luck kicking in at the right time. And of course, it's a long way to go. So I hope it continues to happen. I'll take you back to my schooling days. Was growing up in Indore, a tier two town. Of course, was very passionate about the kind of people I would be around, but was also slightly dyslexic. So was very poor at studies, would try to cramp up things, but won't happen. Growing up with a sibling who was a state topper, and at the other end, it was me. So the family was very confused. How can we give birth to so distinct individuals? But from there, the idea was, of course, to go out and have a decent education. And like any middle class families, mindset is it gets enrolled into a person as well. So it was about, okay, engineering karte hain, and then job lete hain. And then if you get that 25,000 rupees, back in the day, it was massive, guys. So what job was the dream job to do. Again, as Lifewood had, I went for my bachelor's to Ahmedabad, and that is where I met so many people whose fathers had moved up from a cycle to possibly now the best cars in the country. And I think that since 90s, the Gujarat ka ecosystem had developed so much, and all the people around me. So I think it kicked into me that entrepreneurship has a lot of potential, and if you really put in the hard work, you get rewarded for it. So that part started kicking in. Although still the job, the motto was you need to land a good decent job. Just by the bachelor's time, it was okay if I go to a decent, half decent college and have an opportunity to crack a bigger job, that will do the job for me. And for that, I went to National Institute of Construction Management and Research. I come from a civil engineering background. So that's where I had a chance to meet my current, of course, now 12-year good friend Kunal, also my CEO currently and a co-founder in the company. So we got together. We are these two backbenchers who'd sit on the last bench and just discuss out ideas every time possible, and would party and do all kind of notorious stuff that a person, that last bencher group possibly does. But I think everyone in the class would think, okay, we become friends with them. It's a recipe for disaster. And by the time you're in masters, and of course, a lot of people in the school would know, you get serious for life, and that's what we did not happen to us. Although when the results came and first semester onwards, we started topping the class. So everyone was like, "How is this possible? These guys sit on the last bench, don't do shit, and like always playing around." But we'd always discuss ideas, and that's when we got to an idea, and it very interesting story. So me and Kunal were both having our own motorcycles, and one day we were both walking, and we realized that somebody else have taken our motorbike for, possibly somebody wanted to go for a date or for a dinner, etc. And we were like, next time somebody asks, we just gonna rent it out, not give it out for free. And that's how we started, scaled it up to 84 motorbikes. I mean, it was more Activas and less motorbike, but it was an illegal business because we were getting bikes on a white number plate and passing it on. But in college, nobody cared, right? Like we just had a fleet of two-wheelers. That business got acquired. All the assets got sold to a bigger company on bikes. Kunal joined it. I got a and back in the day, 20 lakh rupee of offer letter placement from Dubai. And my family was like, oh my God, you cracked it. Now you will be out of India and that's done for you. So I went ahead and did that. Was doing fairly decent in Dubai. I had just got a Canadian PR before coming to India. So I was planning to shift there. And that's when Kunal called me. And he's like, chal, ab saath mein kuch karte hain. And I was like, yaar, I'm just settling down, etc., etc. And his words, I still remember. He called me at 10 in the morning saying कि if you get married and have kids, you might not have the guts to possibly take a call like this. So today is the day you should. And at 6 o'clock in the evening, I dropped my resignation and I was back to him. And when I came back, I asked him first thing, करना क्या है यार? And that's how we started. And I think EMotorad was born. Rajiv was already a close friend, but not somebody I knew business wise. Sumit, Rajiv and Kunal were together in their last startup. So that's how it panned out. And it's been just 4 years of journey of us building out of India.
But when you say it's just 4 years, it doesn't seem like 4 years. You've made it really big within the short span of time, I would say.
I think the sites are set on bigger vision and a bigger dream. So when you look from that perspective, we still believe there is so much to be done. There's of course the early signs of us going and doing bigger things. But I think the opportunity that we're sitting on globally, I think a lot of Indian startups are sitting on. I think it's a massive, massive opportunity. So it's up to us to, of course, go out and envision it and deliver on it.
Absolutely, absolutely. So one thing I want to understand, Mr. Roja, you've been in the throughout your interest, I would say you were in marketing. Currently, you had the chief marketing as a chief marketing officer. You are heading at EMotorad. So what do you think? How can brands use social media or probably podcast or streaming services to talk to their audience?
Right. So I think since the conversation is mainly going to revolve more around marketing and less around startup, I'll try and keep it as simple as possible. And from my perspective, how I see things, I'll just narrate it down in that way only. Maybe somebody who wants to know deep dive can always reach out to me on LinkedIn or possibly you can share my contacts. Sandeep. I think the evolution has happened in marketing over a period of time, right? Like imagine a brand which is and let's look at what the lapses have been, right? Like imagine 80s, 90s, what are the options for any company to do marketing, right? Like you can throw out pamphlets in newspaper, you can put up a newspaper ad, put up a small radio ad, or the best, if you have a lot of money, put it out on TV if you are pan India presence, etc. Well and good, or local channels, right? Now when you look today, things have evolved so much, and everything happened because internet kicked in, right? And I think the early stages were okay, email marketing, because everyone started opening an email. Today, if you see, everyone doesn't open email as often, and of course work email is a separate thing unless you're talking B2B. People open their so what you want to do is basically figure out where your audience are, right, and what are they doing for most amount of time. And even in audience, different segregation, right? Like if you'll see, all the teenagers back when I was a teenager, we were on Facebook, and it was a very fancy place. Just after Awkward, Facebook thing has happened, right? From there, we moved to Instagram because our parents started joining Facebook, right? Like so that shift happened. Now they started joining Instagram. The shift to and you'll see a lot of Gen Zs using Snapchat as a medium. So I think you want to be available on the places where your audience exists and spends most time on. And that is the best way for you to get a ROI and pass on a message to the right set of audience. And I think that's where social media has been the place, right? Like all of us open social media so often in the day. And I'm not talking about the outliers who say, hey, I have my restricted time, which is very few, right? So while they do that, how often do you have the opportunity to reach out to them? And if you have very good niches, you can find a very good, cost to reach to an audience, which possibly a TV ad or a newspaper or radio ad did not do with that kind of a micro targeting. And I think that availability has made it no brainer for all our organizations and like all different kind of businesses to reach the audience.
Okay, that's and I would say I'm one of the follower of on the Insta. I would say where every second day probably I see an advertisement where you're trying to reach out the right set of audience to get into it. That's really a nice this thing which we go across. So when
Sandhya, I'll
we
be looking
move,
forward to when you make the purchase happen.
certainly, yes, certainly, we'll do that. So moving ahead, just want to understand, as you mentioned that we get into the right kind of set of social media handles and things like that. So how do you think how do brand choose the right type of content? Should it be like blog, or it should be an interactive session, or experiences, or to how does it goes to achieve the goals of the respective organizations?
Right. So I think for everyone listening and possibly working in who choose to work in marketing in the future, every content has their own set of pros and cons, right? Like let's imagine आपने जो example दिया blogs ही पकड़ लेते हैं. So let's say a couple of people, why would they come out and read a blog? So a big portion of blog reading is basically either doing a research, either finding out the trust into something, or either trying to gain more and more information to possibly justify their logic or means, right? So blog works very well there. But let's say if you are trying to sell me a chocolate, possibly a blog might not be a great means, right? At the same point in time, if you talk about something like a VR experience, right? Like that might work very well for a B2B brand doing an expo, right? So every medium has its own pros and cons. If you try and run a Facebook ad on certain brand, it might work better than compared to other brands, right? Like a lot of people try and run this conversion campaigns for, let's say, XYZ, a t-shirt product, a conversion campaign. एकदम basic देखते हैं, कोई t-shirt बेच रहे हो आप, and if you're trying to sell a t-shirt, a conversion campaign, Facebook works very well, right? The same campaign might not work for a car. Possibly there you want to get them into a journey to consider having XYZ brand in the category, whatever you're looking for. I think in similar things for us also, blogs was a journey part where we wanted to get 2, 3 things done, right? Like when we did blogs, we did it because we wanted our SEO ranking to go up. Okay, great, let's do blogs. We also figured that we are not an impulse purchase. So I cannot run ads and see conversion. So there's a research that people go through, and then that is where blog kicked in. But then we figured out, yeah, usse bhi acha means hai because people. So now for all the audience, right? How do you make the purchase happen? And maybe not a cycle or electric cycle, but let's say you want to buy a refrigerator. How do you figure out which are the top 10 refrigerators? You possibly go out and Google it. Now, blogs might help you there, but you also go out and check out any tech review. Like, let's say you're buying a phone, right? You would go on YouTube and try to figure out what are the best phones in 15,000 rupees, right? Now you want to be present there. So any medium, it's very, very logical, right? Like as a consumer, what your consumer does, where do you want to fit in? And in that particular funnel point, what are the few medium through which you can reach them or be found and be found there.
Okay. So I think our audience have understood that depending on your product, you should choose your medium. It's just not that it's always the blog works. There's no one single idea which works for every single product. So there I see a lot of questions in the Q&A from our audience. So let's take a few questions from there. Manju is asking, what new trends do you think will shape the future of marketing, and how can brands prepare for them?
Right. So I think new trends keep coming up, right? Like, and since I believe a lot of people studying in business school today would go out to become the future leaders, right? So I think that's the edge you will have over all these experienced people that are in the market, right? Like, because you'll be coming up in new things and saying, hey, this works, this doesn't work, X, Y. So let's say today what you see is a big shift is happening in how things get created, right? Earlier, making a video ad, imagine again, let's go back like 90s. Making a video ad was so much cost, right? Like, it was supposed to be a heavy cost of the entire budget of marketing. Today, there are AI softwares coming up which are going to change the landscape completely. Somebody sitting in your office will create a better video ad than a production agency in future. That's a big shift happening. Then you go out and check out the social media platform, how the algorithm works. Big shift happening. In fact, even your consumers' consumption pattern has changed so much, Sandeep. So back in the day, we used to open YouTube and watch a long form video, right? Like, today we are all scrolling in a second, and if you don't catch my eye within that 5 seconds, I am clicking that skip button, boss. I'm not going to wait for it. So I think all these patterns are something that will keep on improving, changing over a period of time. And I think we need to find a way to fit in our brands, right? Like, all of you people have so much edge because this generation will possibly have a better knowledge of how technology can be enabled, and technology is changing the entire landscape of marketing. It's just improving it, I'd say. So a lot of existing leaders are very enthusiastic about it and are opting out on it. But a lot of leaders are also existing in the industry who are not, who are giving a resistance to change, but they are going to phase out. And that's how tech has evolved over a period of time. And I think now marketing tech is the next big gimmick. So I'll say today, although the video production cost might come down drastically, but then imagine all brands will have so much videos to deliver. So distribution cost is going to go up. So for you to select the best means of distribution is going to become very critical. So I think that's an edge you can possibly come up.
Okay, since you mentioned about the creation of video making, basically, so when we speak about if somebody's, I understand probably making a video might be a little easier, or I would say cheaper at this point of time, because a lot of availability of mobile phones, good branded mobile phones are available to shot the video. But what are some tips which they need to look into it before making a video? Since you also mentioned that the level of attentiveness when they watch a video is quite low, right?
Yeah.
So what tips would you like to suggest us?
Okay, so before we come on to tips, it's not about that video that you shoot from a mobile phone. I'm talking about AI. So things like Sora and all those crazy AI software that are coming up are going to imagine anything and deliver it to you without a lot of hassle, right? So I think it's going to evolve from the AI perspective is what I believe. I'm sorry, Sandeep, I lost you. What tips on which front?
On video engaging. So how to make a video even more engaging?
Yeah. So I think different reasons for so any content piece, video is a content piece, right? Like, what makes any content engage? And you can start experimenting as simple as on Twitter or LinkedIn, guys. Like, just go out there. The more you do, more you learn. Simple as that. What makes anything engage is very simple, right? Like, anything that people have drastic amount of enthusiasm towards or a keen interest towards will get them to engage. Now, engagement could be different, right? There are certain engagement which I personally don't care about today, right? So let's say a video is uploaded, then possibly your impressions are engagement, right? Like your likes are engagement, your comments are. I think for me, all these metrics exist, right? Like, because you end up liking so many things and comment on so many things, but still comments are a decent part. The biggest engagement metric that one can track today is shareability, right? How many people share your content, and if that becomes, if you can click through on that in today's era, probably tomorrow it again changes, right? So, so any content piece, why does it become possibly engaging? Is people have a keen interest in it, or it has a perspective which either, possibly doubles down on their existing logic, or possibly denies it completely. Now I'm going to engage on, at least in the comment format, right? The platform will end up giving me more reach. Now you can write on LinkedIn, right? Like, let's say XYZ things happen. and you go out and put up a post on that. For example, recently, this entire thing happened with one of the companies putting out a post on a teen coming up and topping class in UP, and right now, if let's say your view was and very simple, right? Like your content would have traveled and engagement would have increased only because you would have put up a view that they did the right thing. Right there. Now people will come out and engage with you and be like, hey, how can you say they did the right thing? This is not fair. XYZ. So your engagement. So either you have the view that doubles down on my logic, where you go out and deny the fact that, oh, this is not right, or you contradict it so severely that so engagement happens. Same goes for video also. So it's if I have a keen interest and then you give me something that I'm really anticipating, or you give me something that I'm not expecting at all. So you throw back to me on one of the ends and I'm bound to react. Now, if it's a topic that, let's say, Sandeep, you and I discuss over a period of time, um, I think I'm going bound to share it with you. Let's say it's about a cat food XYZ, and you are a cat owner, I'm a cat owner. And if I find a content that is really interesting about the cat food, I'm going to share it with Sandeep because, oh, I had this conversation with a niche of people. Now, cat is a very small bound community. So I think you can look at it from this perspective and then just look at what engagement metric works the most for you. If you want that to be triggered, find out reasons why that would happen. If shareability is your metrics, find out why would somebody share. And if you find enough and more reasons, I think it's basic logic then from there on.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you so much for that. So now when you say that a lot of content are there, these days we see a lot of memes also, right? A lot of them share or brand themselves using the memes, which has become a very, very powerful tool in these days when it comes to engagement specifically when it comes. So do you think like these memes connect the audience better for the brand identity?
I think memes do work for certain brands, right? Like, and not, so I'll give you an example. And for everyone who's watching, right? Like, imagine the most, there are always these professors like who are very uptight. Imagine the most uptight professor trying to deliver a joke. People won't get it for the longest period in time because they don't expect it out of that professor. At the same point in time, you always have this funny professor, even if he's going to not deliver a joke, sometimes you will perceive it as a joke and just laugh it out and he'll be like, hey, I did. So I think brand personality kicks in here, right? Like what kind of a brand personality you have. So on certain brand personality, this works out very well. We are just a brand personality and we love to play around with memes and things like that. I think a lot of these brands, especially in B2B segment, it gets difficult. But then people also found that as a niche. So you'll see a lot of LinkedIn marketing, B2B marketing happening where they have memes floating around now. So I think anything that you try and break through will possibly give you that leverage. But I think memes are a great way because it has insane shareability, right? Like one of the most shared content on internet is memes also. So I think you can fall into that space, utilize the right mediums, and possibly get the right reach that you're looking for.
Okay, so to have a better understanding, so what do you think? What marketing tactics do you follow at EMotorad, or what would you like to suggest somebody into similar domains of business? What tactics can they follow? It?
Right. So, okay, look, let's look at our business and what, and every business can be different, right? And everything then boils down from there to what you should be doing. So, our business was we were trying to sell electric bicycle, which is a new category for country, right? So, first was we are trying to create a market, which is again a super difficult job to do. In that, we wanted to introduce electric bicycle. Now, the biggest problem we face was any content you develop, you have to specifically identify and make sure that your product does not get confused for other product. For example, our product has a confusion for it being a normal cycle from the visual looks of it. Another thing that we had was it was still a uptight purchase. It was still a costly affair to do. So people are not, like I said, it is not an impulse buy. Another problem statement for us to solve. And then we figured, okay, this also gives you solutions, right? Like if it's not an impulse buy, then what happens? Anybody who comes into the funnel to buy is going to have a 3-month journey. So we figured that out. Okay, what does he do in this 3 months? Okay, he goes out and researches on YouTube. He goes to the dealership and figures it out. He goes out and talks to 4 people who possibly are into bicycling. Now, these are the touch points that we need to have a great presence in and possibly have a uptight word. He also goes on e-commerce and check out ratings of different bikes. And all these are the things that we figured, okay, if we do, we can solve for these all things, enough and more people will find us interesting enough to make the purchase happen. So for on B2C side, we had this solved, right? We also have a B2B business, which not a lot of people know about. So for B2B business, we have very different ball game to solve. We said, hey, no matter how big a brand we make in India, it's never going to resonate to people abroad because we are now trying to build from India for the world. Uh, who are we basically competing with is a neighboring country who's already a big manufacturing hub. Now people to look into India and have that. So we said, what do we need to solve for? We need to solve for trust. Okay, all right, that's the number one parameter. We need to solve for capabilities because they might not believe that we have the capability to deliver highest standards. Now, how do you do that? Every problem statement when you find, you'll find solution. So the solution was, okay, if we can place ourselves as a case study for all the people that we are already working with, it's going to solve for all the newcomers to come in. So this way, I think for any brand that you guys work with, go ahead and work with. I think you just need to identify, okay, what are the issues that I need to resolve? How does my consumer journey look like? And in that, figure out more and enough problem statement to solve. And if one medium solves more problem statement, probably it is a better ROI for you.
Great. That's really good. And there's one of our audience, Rehana Khan says, "Hello, sir. I am from Pune, and I've seen EMotorad bikes on the roads of Pune." That's really great, Rehana.
Awesome. Thank you. Even I've started to see it recently. And every time I'm going around with friends and stuff now, since you notice that a lot more, they will also notice it and be like, hey, see, that's your bike. Thank you. But I think it's a long way to go still. I think you will need more and more products to be on road and enough and more people to start opting e-cycle as a commute option.
Absolutely great. So the next question has been asked by Rajiv. He says, "How can businesses use AI and ML, machine learning, for their marketing efforts specifically?"
Right. So I think Sandeep, you are already talking that, how AI is changing landscape, right? Like the video creation bits is really blowing my mind up because I know so many people who take so long to create something of a content piece. And over a period of time, it's going to become smart enough to deliver anything that a marketer is looking for. And I'm not talking probably in next 1-2 years, but over a period of decade, 2 decades, it's definitely going to kick in. And the way it's evolving, maybe sooner. So I think over, if you look at AI and ML, a lot of these tools have kicked in on different levels of marketing, right? Like right from your lead generation to possibly your content creation. I think everything can happen via AI and ML, right? Like, and it's becoming smarter as we go ahead, right? Like today, all my content writers are sitting on ChatGPT and figuring out their base framework, right? Like, and from there on, they are working as a clever person. So I think all these tools can work in two fashion. One is they can possibly come out and create stuff for you, and you can utilize that and put that touch of human side to it and improve upon it. So I think as we speak, it's already happening, Sandeep, and I think a lot of us are already using that part of it. It's just going to become even better in future to come, and it's going to impact all sides of businesses, right? Like for our B2B business, our leads that we get are getting filtered down by AI today. So again, that is where AI has kicked in. And I can see potential usage of AI in so many different aspects, right? From creation of a static ad to a video ad to how the audio would sound if you want to put it up, anything and everything that we possibly go out and do. Even for that matter of fact, today, Facebook, Google ads, when they get optimized on basis of AI and ML, right? Even when you run ads with e-commerce, they get optimized using their AI and ML models. So it's so amazing that how these technologies are already in and so many companies are already started to use it.
So when you say that AI is a lot of organizations have already started using. So what is that which can make a video viral? Or
Okay.
probably a reel, or it can be a meme, or it can be a poster. What
Yeah.
does that take to anything to go viral?
Yeah, I had this discussion with so many people, and frankly speaking, and of course, the top shots, when I'll take the name, you would have heard of all of them. But I think I've had this discussion saying, hey, what makes things go viral? Now, there were like different school of thoughts, right? Most old schoolers came out and say, hey, virality is bought, right? You give me any shit piece of content too, I will take it up and I can make it go viral because I can buy enough and more places for it. That is one way of going viral, right? But you don't want to do that because that's still a cost to you. Then there are other few spaces, right? So one way of doing that is, and this is something that I've boiled down to speaking to so many amazing bunch of people. Great content travels, right? Like any great piece of content, if you can create, it will have the travel medium attached to it. We did 2 pieces of content, and you can very easily figure out that one of the content has like I think 3-4 million views on our Instagram page. The other content has like, I think 17-18 million views. But if you go to any other video, it is basically 10K views. Now, it's posted at the same time by the same account. So there has to be something that got it to, right, travel. So one was people found it very interesting to engage with, right? Like, I'll give you both, right? One was daddy content that we did where it was Upendra Limia coming out and, in this animal avatar trying to pass on that message. The other was MS Dhoni singing. Of course, both the content piece has enough and more engagement. Both the content piece has some kind of a nostalgic value from what they had already seen. One of the content piece was something that internet was waiting for so long. Now, how algorithm works is, and every algorithm has a different way of working. Like if you'll see LinkedIn algorithm, and again, throw a shout out to anyone who is ready to experiment on this. Post anything Monday 10:30, Tuesday 1:30, Wednesday 4:30. All these three are the best timings to post. So they amplify your. But again, it comes down to what piece of content you create. If there is enough and more likes coming and more comments coming and people spending more time on that particular content, algorithms of all this social media try and figure out, okay, this piece of content has some potential, so I should show it to more people. Now let's say it shows it to Sandeep and Aditya, and if I don't engage with it and Sandeep does, then it will find more affluent people who the platform believes are engaging with content that Sandeep has engaged with, and it will throw it out to all those bunch of people and see what happens to it. And then at the same point in time doing this, that's what algorithm is doing at the back end. So all you want to do is, if it reaches your TG, and the TG cannot help but engage. And if that happens, that content, that platform wants that content to travel because they want the engagement to happen, because they want you to be on the platform.
So it's more to do with you have the right set of content so that it gets more engaging.
Absolutely. I mean, whatever video, whatever write up, whatever small thing you do. And again, I've given the tool to experiment to everyone, right? Like just go out on your favorite social media and try and have a point of view on anything that's trending, right? And the point of view could be so strong against it or so strong with it, you will find engagement happen.
Okay, that's really great. Thank you so much for that. The next question has been asked by Jayashree. She's asking, what are some effective ways for B2B brand to stand out in a competitive market?
Yeah. Um, Frankly speaking, B2B brands take the longest time to become a brand, right? Like, and you can start calling anything a brand because day one you have a brand identity in place. But I think when we see our brand also, right? Like you need to have a vision of how people want to be perceived, right? And in B2B, it's not just the marketing gimmicks that you do that's gonna make you last, right? It's a lot of things, and I'll give you examples. If you'll see Bosch, right? It's known for its innovation. Now, no amount of marketing is going to replace that. So, at the core, B2B need to be a great business first, and then go out and, of course, over a period of time, have the leverage of brand come in. Day one in B2B, you're not going to have that leverage. So, if you see so many different brands which are present in B2B segment, there are a lot of marketing tactics that you can do to reach out to people, that you can do to get the leads, that you can do to possibly have conversions happen. But at the same point in time, in the longest run, which every brand's vision is, you need to be known for certain things, right? Like, for example, if you see Zoho, right? Like people look at it and say, hey, it's a great enterprise software for XYZ things. And I think that will only happen with your value proposition that you offer. When it comes to marketing, I would suggest every different segment has different kind of marketing tools available to them. For us, and I'll talk about us today, in B2B space, what we are trying to do is basically try and put up the USP of India for the world. And I think we are trying to change that perspective for everyone to look into India for manufacturing. For us, the USPs are something which are very value driven, but at the same point in time, also very geopolitical, right? I'll give you an example. Importing an e-bike from India to US has 0% duties. And that's a USP I want to put forward because that's something that affects somebody's cost directly. At the same point in time, I'm not trying to sell him the USP only. So I do have a technology backing that kicks in, right? So I want to possibly put that up and say, hey, you'll get this product, which of course you can get from other country, but we also give a technology on top of it. But you know what, cherry on the cake, we have 15% duty that we can save for you. And again, then that becomes a great value prop. So I think different tactics, right? Let's say if you are a software firm, you might not be able to do this. You will have to put up a very different equation altogether. Same goes for whatever product or streamline. a lot of situation changes. But again, very basic tools that anyone can use for this is possibly email marketing. If you have enough and more emails, LinkedIn has become a great tool for B2B marketing. Some people also try and figure out expos as a place. So I think we are doing this very interesting. Any place in the world, there are so many bicycle expos happening, and we cannot be a part of all those expos. So every time an expo happens, we know people arrive 1 or 2 days in advance and then stay for the duration. So we pinpoint that location, and in 5 kilometer radius, we do Facebook marketing. So
That's some idea that is.
so we keep doing this kind of things, and of course, everyone will have different way of doing it.
So that's really sounds great. You know, when you say that you know the audience gonna be there at that particular location.
Yeah.
So when you do this geotagging and then you start promoting your ways,
Yeah.
I'm sure you are pitching in indirectly to the minds of, and they would look forward for such something like that.
Right.
Right. So that's really great. The next question has been asked by Shai Charan. He says, all say that EV is the future.
Yeah.
You know how special bikes are to boys because they love to ride
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
experience it. But
Yeah.
EV doesn't has that. Okay, but in EV that experience is not found.
Yeah.
So now how to grab these people?
Yeah. No, I think very interesting question. Yeah. Frankly speaking, motorcycles are a way of feeling that adrenaline in yourself, and I think IC engine has given that a lot more than EVs, right? Like if you look at it, so many people have also tried to do gimmicks, right? Like there are also EV companies in India that has audio attached to it, so it makes the sound of any bike you want. But frankly speaking, I think these are going to be when we talk the future. It's spoken of as at mass level, right? So masses will adopt to it, and then you still have those Parsi people owning that 1960s car, and possibly me personally cannot own it because I don't think I'll be able to afford the maintenance of it, right? Like, so I think slowly over a period of time, it's going to become a very niche product, and people are going to be like, hey, and I think that's how today we are envisioning it. God knows what happens, but people are going to look back and say, hey, I have a IC. And imagine that everything gets left behind, right? Imagine if there is not enough and more consumption of petrol and diesel, you will not have so many petrol pumps. They will convert into charging stations. So you will start finding difficulties here and there, and slowly it will evade out. That's what happens to a lot of technology too, right? Again, but I feel the question, right? Like I know as a boy how it feels to ride a bike that you actually feel. I think EVs will definitely come close to giving you an experience, but it'll be a different kind of experience.
Great, thank you so much for that. We will take few more questions, probably another couple of questions we'll take up. So next question has been asked by Shruti. She says, what are the important marketing metrics we should look at when we plan to advertise?
All right. So I'll give this answer in two different levels. Very interesting question, right? Like, okay, what kind of advertisement are you trying to do, right? Like advertisement can be different kinds. Okay. So what is the goal of my advertisement? So I'll give you the basic level pe tote awareness is one goal, right? And performance is the other goal, right? So performance case pe aap jab advertise karne jate ho, to aap so when you possibly shoot up an advertisement for performance, your whole objective comes down to, boss, for this I want a return, right? And return is very clearly visible in terms of if I spend $10, I want a sale of $100 to happen. It's very clear there, right? When you go to awareness, it's a very different kind of a ball game, right? Like what you're looking for is, okay, I want to reach so and so audience. I want them to have a recall when they go out and make a purchase happen. So the objective changes very drastically. The recall can only happen when I have shown them my advertisement for, let's say, 4 to 5 times over a certain medium. And maybe, let's say, a year down the line, they decide, okay, I want to buy a laptop, and I have had more than enough advertisement of certain laptop. I will consider buying it. The job of awareness is done, right? So where you do it is very important. Now, let's say दोनों में metrics बहुत अलग हो जाते हैं. मैं दोनों के metrics को बताता हूँ. So let's say if you are doing awareness, right? Like your metrics come down to be what kind of a brand health do you have? It could be different kind of organic metrics. I'll give an example. How many Google searches do you get after you do a certain campaign in certain place, right? You have a brand health tracker that you roll out. So you want to figure out, okay, before this campaign, how many people knew about it, or what narration of me they had in their mind, depending. And after this campaign, how is the narration in their mind, or how many people know about it. You can see short-term trends in when the campaign is rolling out in number of Google search, in number of website visits, etc. Right? That's one metrics for the top level of awareness. When you go to performance, your metrics completely change, right? Like your metrics come out to basically what kind of CAC do I have? So basically to acquire one customer, how much money am I spending in total in that point? What kind of a ROAS do I have? So for every spend of advertisement, what kind of a return am I getting? So your metrics will drastically change, and then you can go out and do a lot many. I do like 4 to 5 in performance. I have like 4 to 5 awareness that I track on a regular basis. A lot of these metrics we do track just because we utilize them while selecting our mediums, and while because we need them to be placed into certain aspects. But there are certain metrics which stay common and constant, right? You are basically, so this is the logic to it. You're basically trying to figure out your cheapest way of getting a task done or meeting an objective. That is the
Yes.
whole narration of it. Every brand wants to go out to IPL and advertise, right? It is not the cheapest way. You're not going. What is the cheaper way? YouTube is probably more cheaper to reach to the right target audience. If you advertise on IPL, you can go out and do. I'm not saying don't advertise on IPL. If your brand demands, you should. But uh, it is not for every brand. But at the same point in time, if you let's say go out on YouTube, you can segment audience into different segment and still pass on that video message. And there also you go out and question a lot of things, like your brand perception on an IPL ad versus a YouTube ad is very different. So we are also dwelling onto those questions as well. But very basic, you want to reach 200 people, let's say. Those 100 people, how will you find through what all mediums? So that medium, let's say, come out to be, okay, social media is one, newspaper pamphlet is another, just for the sake of it. Now you're going to go, and let's say radio is third, for example. So you have these three segments. You're going to go out and say, to reach this 100 people, what is my spend? And that spend is you're going to calculate, and you're going to say, okay, this is my cheapest route to do that. Maybe this is very close, so I might experiment AB on both of these. इससे शायद conversion improve हो जाए. So the whole idea is your travel mechanism का cost improve करना है. Your distribution cost needs to be improved to certain. So all throughout your life, whenever you do marketing and when you do spend, you will see objective, and you will see for that objective what is the kind of budget do I have, and you will try and maximize on either the conversion or the reach. So either ways, it's going to work out for you.
Okay, that sounds really very practical, I would say. So just understand your market, your TG, and accordingly you do take
Yeah,
a
I'm
call.
sorry, too practical. Just dwelled into it so much these days that I know possibly in B schools you've been taught different ways, but I think हाँ बी स्कूल लैंग्वेज में बोले तो यार ऊपर की तरफ एक अलग मैट्रिक चलता है, नीचे की तरफ अलग मैट्रिक चलता है. ओवरऑल पैसा बचाना है, सबसे सस्ते में काम करना है बेसिकली.
Absolutely right. So we've been talking about probably brands, big businesses, and things like that. But when we speak about Indian market, there are a lot of unorganized market, or I would say a small time shopkeepers, small time vendors, yeah, small businesses, I would say. If I want you to address that, ki, there is a shop, small shop, how do he market himself? He doesn't know too many technology. For example, I would say if I speak about my father, who's at a small time business,
Yeah.
everybody might not be into corporates. So
Yeah.
what message would you like to give it in simple terms? Ki, you do these three things, I'm sure you will see the conversion.
Yeah, I think very interesting. Yeah, Sandeep. And so many times, I see a lot of entrepreneurs come out and complain, hey, today I do not have the skill, so I cannot do this. But so मुझको ना ये चीज बहुत अच्छी लगती है. Like I don't know where I read it, or was it Lionel Messi who said it or not? But for every strength that God gives you, it gives you a weakness, and for every weakness it gives you a strength too. So life is made like that, right? Now if you'll see Leo Messi, he was very small and short, so he has a difference. His center of gravity is so low, he can turn around so fast, right? At the same point in time, if you'll see the kind of work ethic Ronaldo had, his strength was different, so he had different. So I think both are great. So I think similar perspectives से हमको देखना चाहिए. If you're a small business owner, you have something that the big ones lack big time, and you need to double down on your strength, or possibly work out a bit on your weaknesses too. So what is your strength, right? Like imagine as we become a bigger business, we also realize that those problems start kicking for us. But for a small business, I think the kind of leverage you have where you can speak to each customer is drastic. No big business can possibly do that. Now, let's say if you're a small restaurant versus a big restaurant chain, right? The kind of customer service you can do is way different than what they can do. They can spend a lot and charge a lot more and make the customer feel amazing. You can just have a sweet word, and possibly that does the job for you. And possibly that can kick in a word of mouth that can get you more customers. So I think for every weakness that possibly, again, in life, not just in business also. If you have been given a weakness, I think you will have enough and more opportunity to possibly garner something out of it. And that will be your biggest strength. And if you can look at it that way. So for a restaurant owner, possibly if you can just speak to your audience and give them a free XYZ dessert next time they visit, or possibly they're going to go out and talk about it, and possibly a free birthday cake when you know XY. I don't know. There is so many things. I'm not into that businesses. But all I'm trying to say is we need to look at it from the perspective that when you're small, it has a different strength. And I think you need to utilize those different strengths.
Great, great. Thank you so much, Mr. Aditya. It was really amazing interacting with you, and thanks a lot for sharing such wonderful, deep thoughts about marketing. I'm sure a lot of different perspectives have opened up today for all our students and the viewers who would, I'm sure they would love to understand this. This recording would also be put on YouTube of GIBS IRE Talks. So in case if you have missed out on anything, you can certainly recheck what was the conversation, how did we go about it, or what things you need to decide when you design your marketing campaigns. So it is something like today we have got it from the horse's mouth. Again, I would say it was the CMO of EMotorad. So we are really happy and thank you. Heartfelt gratitude for joining us today. And it was really amazing to have you today. And we would love to invite you to campus. Any day you're in Bangalore, we would love to host you at the campus so that our students can directly interact with you for, I'm sure that is the day when the students would be looking forward to meet you.
Definitely. In fact, not just that, any one of you are, students or any help that possibly I can do, or if not, if I'm not able to solve it, possibly I'll connect you to somebody who can. So please do reach out to me on LinkedIn anytime you need any help, of course, available. And I hope since you have so many people who are out of business school, I hope a lot of you choose to become entrepreneurs yourself, not immediately, but down the line, of course, have that dream, and let's try and make a lot more thing happen out of India, guys. I think you're studying in a great institute. You must utilize the power of everything taught to you. Again, Sandeep, thank you so much for having us, and a great initiative to have all these amazing bunch of people interact with industry professionals who are doing it. I think on the job, whatever we have spoken of today, I think they're going to utilize it over their job. And of course, any one of you who's planning to kickstart with anything, need any help, or even in once you start getting placed and start working in marketing, etc., need any help, please feel free to reach out to me.